Okay, does anybody in the room have a sibling or a relative that has type 1 diabetes? Alright, so you'll know a little bit about what I'm talking about. Today I'm going to talk about type 1 diabetes. I say diabetes because my older sister, who has had diabetes for 15 years, is 1 out of 800 people, or 5.5 million Americans who have type 1 diabetes. A little bit about type 1 diabetes is that it's a crippling and relentless disease. It occurs in children and young adults when the immune system mistakenly destroys all insulin-producing islet beta cells in the pancreas. Then the cells become helpless without energy, and as a result, there is an excessive amount of glucose in the blood, and the loss of insulin results in pancreatic failure. To stay alive and to regulate their blood sugar, patients rely on multiple daily blood sugar measurements and insulin injections. This leads to my proposition for today, which is expanding stem cell research on islet cell transplantation will result in a cure for type 1 diabetes. I have 3 points that I'm going to share with you today. My first one is, if more time and research was done, diabetics could be using stem cell therapy. My second one is, the therapy can be through islet cell transplantation. And my third one is, if more tests were conducted, then more type 1 diabetics would benefit from stem cell therapy. A little bit about stem cells leads me to my first point. Stem cells are immature, unprogrammed cells that have the ability to grow in different kinds of tissue. And in that case, stem cell therapy is one of the most promising ways of curing diabetes. Through pioneering work by researchers from the newly named Schultz Diabetes Institute, the Stem Cell Institute, the Center for Translational Medicine, and other critical university resources have come up with 3 promising cures. 2 of them which are human islet transplantation, and the second one is stem cell-derived islet cells. The therapy restores the cells biologically to further restore the function of the islet cells. And you're probably wondering what islet cells are. And they're from the pancreas, and the pancreas contains clusters of these cells which produce hormones. Following this point is my second point, that therapy can be done through islet cell transplantation, which City of Hope researchers believe they may be able to engineer them into new cells that produce insulin. According to Chu Chai-Shai, PhD assistant professor in the Division of Hematology and Hematopoietic Cell Transplantation, the transplantation can be from adult stem cells from human bone marrow, which can mature into cells resembling islet cells when placed within pancreatic tissue. Dr. Shai also said stem cell therapy could supply alternative sources of cells that can differentiate into pancreatic islet cells, which would benefit most patients with diabetes. This proves the availability of stem cells would significantly speed up the research process for researchers who are devoted to find a hope and a cure for type 1 diabetes, like Dr. Chu Chai-Shai. My final point is an interesting one. If more tests were conducted, then more type 1 diabetics would benefit from the stem cell therapy. An article titled Diabetics Cured in Stem Cell Treatment Advance by David Rose said 14 diabetics using stem cell therapy have been able to stop taking insulin injections for the first time after their body started to produce the hormone naturally again. This was about 3 years ago, and the study was on a total of 15 people, but it was found that only 14 of the patients were no longer insulin dependent because they had transplants of their own blood stem cells. Rose also said in a breakthrough trial, 15 young patients with newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes were given drugs to suppress their immune systems, followed by transfusion of stem cells drawn from their own blood. Now these diabetics are insulin-free for a total of 3 years now. Richard Burt, a co-author of the study of Northwestern University's Feinberg School of Medicine in Chicago, said that 14 of the 15 patients were insulin-free for some time following the treatment. The patients were able to dispense with supplemental insulin immediately following the infusion of stem cells, and had not had to recourse to synthetic insulin since then. He also said that, as a research scientist, I am always hesitant to speak of a cure, but the initial results have been good and show importance of conducting more trials. The results show that insulin-dependent diabetics could be freed from reliance on needles by an injection of their own stem cells. The therapy could signal a revolution in the treatment of the condition. And in conclusion, this shows that if more money and time went into stem cell research of islet cell transplantation, then more type 1 diabetics would have the opportunity of a lifetime to be insulin independent. If proof has been acknowledged that 14 people are now not required to be insulin dependent for the past 3 years, then there is hope for type 1 diabetes. diabetic. Also, there's hope for my sister who has had type 1 diabetes for 15 years.